And welcome. The sports writers of the Salem News are with us. Rick Moore with us from MSO News Sports. Of course, I'm Bill Newell from MSO News Sports as well. Gentlemen, welcome. Here we are, getting closer to the end of July than the beginning of July, I guess, now in the month. And Phil, I got to ask you this question. I understand there was a high-profile national Twitter attack this week, and I know you got a high-profile Twitter account. Were you at all hacked in the last couple of days? I know that Joe Biden was, a few others. What about your account?
No, I was untouched. I'm not part of the elite of Twitter where I get one of those fancy blue check marks yet. So I was left unscathed. I guess my ramblings weren't merited being hacked. So I escaped the guillotine, so to speak. I think we all did.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
No blue checks for any of us. So.
I guess we're not the real deal, you know. What are you gonna do?
Well, I've learned something here. I really thought you guys were, to be quite honest with you. Well, gentlemen,
never asked for it either, so maybe you have to ask for it. I don't know.
Hey, I know some of you have been out at some events in the last week to 10 days, getting out and covering a few things. Anybody want to chime? I'm going to start with Nick Kukuru, Gloucester Times sports editor. Nick, what have you been out at here in the last week or so?
A bunch of baseball. Gloucester Little League, which actually is Gloucester Rockport Little League now, opened up this week, which was nice to see because I know that some of those local leagues are having a little trouble getting going, but they got going pretty well without a hitch. I think they've had triple hitters the last couple nights, so it's been going pretty well for them, which is nice to see. And a little ITL action, they're back too. And they're already a third of the way through the season.
Nick, what do you mean triple header?
Well, they played 3 straight games.
But all different teams, like 16?
All different teams, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that most of the Little Leagues have started up, but there have been a few that chose not to have a season this year. I talked to the Beverly Little League president the other day, and their board of directors voted not to have a season for safety concerns. I know Boxer and Tops have shut their season, and I believe Saugus Little League isn't having a season either. So I guess it just depends, town to town, or in this case, Little League board by Little League board. The governing body leads it up to the individual cities and towns, their Little League. So I guess they're doing what they think is best for each. But for those towns and leagues that are playing, it's great for those kids. And for those who aren't, hopefully they can get back out there next year.
Nick, did they, you do the face bump, you pat on the shoulders, you pat on the helmet, they Little Leaguers will emulate the major leaguers. What are they doing now?
Yeah, so they got rid of the post-game handshake. It was a post-game tip of the hat. I saw a few glove taps, no high fives, anything like that. And, they were kind of all over the balls and bats, just wiping them down every chance they got, after every batter pretty much. So they were pretty on top of things from what I saw.
How about fans? Because all the Little League fields are pretty big.
Yeah, there was plenty of room, especially down at Stage Fort Park. There's a big hill in center field. There were a bunch of parents sitting on the hill. There was plenty of they could easily socially distance down there, which was nice.
I used to put that glove oil on my glove, when I played baseball and then later on softball. But now I guess you got to Purell it these days, right? That's where we're at.
It could be the easy way to hide your stuff, to get a little English on the ball. Oh no, that's not my Vaseline. That's hand sanitizer. This is for safety.
That would work.
Yeah, Gaylord Perry the old Gaylord Perry bringing out a bottle of Purell out to the mound. Yeah,
he was born 40 years too early.
There you go.
You have to test the Purell, to make sure it's actually Purell. You're right, Matt. Yeah. This world.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't think could have a little bit of the major league going on.
I'm sure the little leaguers aren't watching this stuff there, so the leagues will be fine with that piece. But that ball's leaving their hands, and it's all the Purell spilling off of it. Yeah. Nick G, you been out at anything at all in the last few days, last week?
No, I went to a baseball game last week, but I think we touched upon that in last week's podcast. The Mass Amateur is going on, the golf tournament out in Marion, right by the Cape, and we got a couple guys that are making a run for the title. Two local guys from St. John's Prep, Nick Macario and Chris Francoeur, both in the Final Four right now, so they're hoping to move on to an all-prep final. I believe as of this recording, Macario was down a few holes and Francoeur is tied. So, we'll see what happens with that, but that'd be pretty cool if they can move on. That's a lot of great golfers in that tournament. It's a big one to win. Obviously last year we had another local guy, Stephen Delisio from Swampscott, take it home. So, and he was taken down by Macario this year pretty handily. But, good week of golf for those guys. They'd be playing in the finals on Friday if that were the case. And obviously we'll have stuff in the paper on that. So good stuff for them. But I might plan on going over there tomorrow if one of them advances. Obviously, this is an early recording. When people hear this, they might be over by then. But, I'd like to get out to the golf there. It's just it's a little bit of a hike. It's out on the Cape, probably almost 2 hours. So we'll see.
Wouldn't mind if you brought us back some lobster rolls, Nick. Be a nice gesture from you.
I could maybe swing that. Maybe throw it on the company dime. They probably wouldn't like that too much, though.
Yeah.
Sounds another reason for other people not to be watching this tonight, Phil. Yeah, what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I had a chance to talk with, speaking of St. John's Prep, Brian Pino. Brian was a hockey captain for the Eagles in the mid-2010s, and went on to a great 4-year career at Providence College, where he captained the Friars, won a national championship his freshman year. He's now in the Washington Capitals system, and while he has yet to play in an NHL game, he is with the Capitals as they're getting ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs now. They started back up this week. With those phase 3 practices before they go to the bubble up in Toronto. Brian had a really good year in the AHL with the Hershey Bears, 20 goals, 37 points, led the team with 3 shorthanded goals. I think he was a plus 16, only 14 penalty minutes, top 6 forward. Real big jump from his first pro year to his second this past winter. So the Capitals like what they see out of him. They brought him in. I don't think he's going to be skating next to Alex Ovechkin, but there is a chance that if the games do go off as scheduled, there's inevitably going to be injuries. Who knows what's going to happen as far as COVID-19, guys going down, getting sick, having to be out of lineup, things like that. So there are depth guys, and Brian is most definitely one of those. So he could be making his NHL debut in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we're rooting for Brian. He's in good spirits. He was, Brian's a good guy. He's always happy to talk to the people who knew him back when, so to speak, when he was a high schooler. And I told him that a lot of people are rooting for him, and he wanted to thank everyone there. So that means we'll have 3 guys possibly skating in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, Chris Kreider from Boxford, formerly of Masconomet with the New York Rangers. And Chris, ironically, made his debut in the NHL playoffs. Was that 2013, Willie? Yeah, 13, I want to say.
Yeah, right after
BC was in the Frozen Four.
the shortened season. I mean, I know he played in the 13 playoffs. I just don't remember if that was the first one or not.
Yeah, 12 or 13, one of those two.
Yeah, because the Rangers made the finals one of those years. But, I mean,
Right.
when the Bruins beat them in 13, he was definitely on the Rangers. But it was either his first or second playoffs. He's one of the only players in the history of pro sports to officially be classified as a rookie the season after he had already scored a bunch of playoff goals.
Yeah, he had like 5 playoff goals, I remember.
There's a little
Because he
trivia.
came in right after the BC season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been 12 because I think he opened up the playoffs against Ottawa, or maybe it was the second round. I can't remember. But anyway.
You know what? He was on the regular season team in 13 because that was the lockout season. And as you recall, the Bruins opened up the season at home that January against the Rangers. And we were able to write about both Chris Kreider and Chris Bourque We had a nice headline about the christening.
That's right. Wow. Look at that. I like
Memory.
that. Christening.
That's a classic for you. A blast from the past, if you will.
Yes. I don't know if it's up there with Sally Hard or not, but
That's
it's pretty good.
Close.
So anyway, yes, Chris Kreider and the Rangers will be taking on Carolina, I believe, in that play-in round of the NHL playoffs, which start in like 2 weeks. 2 weeks from the Saturday, yeah, which is crazy. And Brian and the Capitals, they're in that round robin. They won the Metropolitan Division, so they don't have to play a play-in round. They just have that round robin with the Bruins, the Lightning, and the Flyers determine their playoff seed, who they'll play. And of course, over in the Western Conference, those games in Edmonton, you have Colin Blackwell, another guy from St. John's Prep, who's been up with the Predators this year, played about 28 games with the Nashville Predators. They're taking on Arizona. So aside from the Bruins, we'll have 3 local rooting interest guys to follow in these Cup playoffs, which is kind of cool. And Nino, we obviously have some locals in the Orlando bubble as well.
Yeah, so I haven't spoken with Pat in a few weeks, Pat Connaughton, that is, of the Prep, or Michael Carter-Williams of Hamilton, but both of those guys are in the bubble. I saw MCW, Michael Carter-Williams, was actually doing, what was that thing he tweeted out, Willie? He was doing a virtual, kind of like a
town hall kind of thing?
What is it?
Was it like a town hall kind of thing where he was?
Yeah, it was like a town hall meeting, and I think he wanted to contribute some stuff on race and the issues that are going on today. So that was cool. But both those guys are out there in the bubble and ready to get this season underway. Phil, I know you put a poll up on the Salem News Twitter, which professional sport was going to have the best chance at finishing the season. And I think the NHL came out on top.
Playoffs. Yeah, I was actually surprised it got more votes than the other 3 sports combined. But yeah, I wonder if that's because the entire thing has taken place in Canada, where they seem to have a little bit more of a foothold on this disease, or in the case of football and baseball, there's no travel involved, or I don't know. But I was interested to see that they won by that much. That was strange.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that people picked the NHL. I tend to lean that way too, to be honest, to have the best chance of finishing. But to have that big of a margin, I don't know how many votes there were, maybe 200 votes or something. But
yeah, something like that. I don't know. But
Phil,
who does Orlando play in the first round?
What's that?
Who does Orlando? Oh, actually, my mistake. They haven't set the playoff seeds yet, so we don't know.
Right. So they have 8 games to finish up the regular season, and it's just for seeding. And then they'll cut out, 8 teams and go to 16-team playoffs. So,
but both those teams play the Celtics in the lead up to the playoffs, right?
Right, which is cool.
Yeah.
Won't be in Boston, but hey.
Phil, is all the hockey being played in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, where are they playing?
The Eastern Conference is playing in Toronto.
Edmonton.
At Scotiabank, the rink there, and everything in Edmonton everything in the West is out in Edmonton. Once they get down, if they get down to a Final Four, the conference finals, the East teams will move to Edmonton, so there'll be 4 teams. The 2 conference finals will both be playing in Edmonton, and then the Stanley Cup will be fought for in Edmonton too. So, for the first time since the Bruins beat Vancouver in Game 7, 2011, the Cup, should it go all the way, will be won on Canadian ice. So, not bad, hoses.
Yeah, I know I've told you this story before, but 2 years ago, no, actually just 1 year ago, right? I was up in Canada, Calgary area, and you go to a restaurant or a bar, and the TVs all had Toronto, the basketball team on. There was no Canadian teams in the Stanley Cup Finals. So this will be a nice change for Canadians who can reclaim their national pastime, hockey, in contrast to what it was just probably 14 months ago, right?
Yeah. I think, let me think now. There would be how many teams from Canada in the playoffs? I think everybody but Ottawa, if I'm not mistaken. qualified. So 6 of the 7, you get what? Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary. Yeah, so they're at least all in the play-in round. So, yeah, get out your maple leaf flags and your maple syrup and your red and white and go Canada, eh? You loonies.
You know what surprised me when we visited Quebec a couple of falls ago? I was asking the Quebecers up there, I don't know what else to call them, who they followed, thinking they were automatically going to say Canadiens. I couldn't get one person from Quebec to say that they were a Canadiens fan because I guess the Nordiques left. They're all Bruins fans. They're all Bruins fans. Am I right, Matt? Did you hear that? It's crazy.
It's true. It is. It is true. It is. I recall I was watching a wrestling documentary recently, and there was a story about Dino Bravo, the great Quebec man, who went to a bar in Montreal, and there was some Canadiens players there, and they were giving him a hard time about being in a fake sport. And of course, being a Nordiques man, there was a bit of a brawl. This was in the 70s. So yeah, the Nordiques Canadian thing is real. That is still to this day. They can't stand those guys.
Plus, Patrice Bergeron is from Quebec, and Ray Bourque was from Quebec. I mean, a lot of the great Bruins have been from there.
Well, they want a team. They want a team. So right now, it was just weird to see them. And they knew all the Bruins. Everybody I talked to, and Patrice Bergeron, of course, was the number one on their tongue.
What team is the Quebec Nordiques now? Let me show my ignorance or lack of memory skills.
Nick, why don't you tell him? You know, Giannino.
But they got I got nothing. Ottawa's too far. They stay in Canada? Did they?
No,
I have no idea.
Colorado Avalanche.
Colorado.
Avalanche.
Well, they didn't mention Colorado. They mentioned the Bruins.
I could see that. Yeah.
I went to a Colorado Rockies hockey game once years ago. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Don Cherry behind the pine.
Avalanche got a pretty good squad. I think I picked them to win it all this year. So we'll see what happens.
You have a good squad. Yeah.
You need to bone up on the team's history then.
Speaking of picks, Matt Williams, you were away last week, but there was a pick mentioned in your name last week on the podcast here where I think it was your boss there mentioned that you thought that the North Shore Navigators might go undefeated, whatever their season is, 29-0, 35-0, whatever that ends up being for the Navigators. What's that?
39-0.
Well, they started off 6-0, and now they're 6-5 as of this recording. But I'm sure they'll rebound here after.
34-5 works for me. I still think that's pretty good, so I'll take that.
Bad trombone. They lost a nail biter last night, bottom of the 9th, right?
Yeah, I think two of the.
It was an error.
It's always tough. It's always a tough matchup in Brockton, you guys. You know
God,
that.
Yeah.
I think 2 or 3 of the 5 losses in a row.
I'm losing.
So they're not doing well in the clutch here.
Matt Williams has made that ride down to Brockton many times for Super 8 baseball, and by the time you get there, you're kind of exhausted. So I could see that. It might take him a few innings to get going and all.
You know what would be nice, though, is nowadays there's probably not a lot of traffic going from Lynn to Brockton, unlike in the old days. You're right. I mean, at that time of day, it would have been, you'd have to leave 9 in the morning to get down there. But, yeah.
I'm sure they're still doing construction for no reason. I'm sure it's awful.
Yeah, that's true. But it's that leads me into the Navigators, which was one of the topics I wanted to discuss. But clearly, some local players having some impact there and doing some nice things with the Navigators this year. And it should be a very competitive league because even though the Navigators have a great roster with some very talented college athletes, other teams are also in the same boat, able to draw upon the expanded, if you will, pool of players that could play in that Futures League this year.
Yeah, I got to give a quick shout out to the old Winthrop guy, Jack Wallace. Jackie fastball, he's doing pretty well for them. The guy that you forget about, Winthrop didn't have like a bang out great baseball team, but I remember when he was pitching in high school, whoever was going to line up for him, he was one of those guys they'd call you up during the week and say, oh, when's he going to pitch? You know, they were trying to avoid him. So nice to see him doing well over there at Fraser.
Some of the other rosters have local talent too, Willie. I saw that the Nashua team has got a lot of named ball players over there, or even the team out in who's the Worcester, the Bravehearts, right? They got some real talented ball players as well. So I think you're right, Bill, in that the talent throughout the league is spread pretty well. So it should make for a very competitive season all the way through.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry about that,
maybe
guys. I got booted for some reason.
it wasn't anything you said, Nick, either. I don't know what happened, but
Okay.
trust me. We did when you left. We didn't discuss. We didn't actually talk about you either. We kind of brushed it under the rug that you were gone, and that's fine. But
Canceled. Nick's canceled.
We should make mention of the fact too that news came out that the MASCAC schools, the State College Athletic Conference, of which Salem State is a part of, have canceled all fall sports this year. It came out earlier. And, hey, that's it's one of these things. I've talked to a few people today in the high school realm, and they both said to me, yeah, it's unfortunate, but you have to remember, college is different than high school, where we're not traveling great distances. We're not staying overnight. We're not, don't necessarily have to pack into a bus. If need be, kids could get their own transportation or whatever, that kind of thing. So I don't know if it's necessarily a foreboding sign for high schools this fall, but I think it does say something that the 8 college presidents, the MASCAC presidents, voted on this, and we're still in mid-July here. They already decided to shut down the athletic programs for the fall.
Having said that, though, Phil, we talked about the Ivy League canceling when we talked last week on the program. They do overnight travel. The MASCAC, I'm thinking that, that it would parallel high school so much closer than even the Ivy Leagues, because they do a lot of day trips at the D3 level, especially in the MASCAC. In other words, they're not going to stay overnight at a hotel if Salem State's going down to Bridgewater or out to North Adams. They're going to take the bus back home that night, no matter what happens, and so on. So, which you led right into what I was thinking that we need to wrap up on here, but we have plenty of time, would be the fall sports and what we were kind of looking at, or, obviously we don't know anything, but, I think it's going to come into focus pretty soon here. And that's obviously not a good, foreshadow, if you will.
I've been asking coaches I speak to this week if they think there's any chance that there are some sports that could be flip-flopped. And I do think they're probably thinking of any scenario. There are some winter coaches that are telling me they're already hearing rumblings that winter sports practices might not even start until after the new year. As you stated, none of us know anything. Everything's just being tossed out there as potentials. But this person I talked to last night about that said, geez, I hope that things don't get switched to the spring where student athletes would have to make a choice. Do I play baseball or football? Do I play lacrosse or football? Do I play, girls soccer or girls lacrosse or softball or, tennis, that kind of thing? Considering that the spring coaches and the players have all lost a season already, you would hate to see them lose another one because an athlete was forced to choose. So in a topic we seemingly talk about every week, that's at least something new that I've been hearing through, talking with various coaches in the area about how things could shake out.
What about your coaches? That's not going to happen. I can't, who's coaching the Peabody football team if football and baseball both in the spring? Dennis Desroches coaches both lacrosse and soccer. Never mind the players making a choice. And small school like Ipswich, they don't have enough boys to field a lacrosse team and a football team in the same season. I don't think it's a realistic option.
Having said that, you look at baseball baseball could be played very nicely in the fall because colleges do play some fall ball and so on.
Yeah.
Get it to tune up. I mean, it would actually be a nice little reward to be able to play maybe softball and baseball in the fall. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if I was making that decision, and clearly I'm not, but if I was, I would rather have that than nothing at all.
Yeah.
Something is better than nothing. So I think that's why. And Will, you're absolutely right. Like, how is an Ipswich? How is an Essex Tech? How is even a Pingree going to field two teams in the same season that are normally in two separate? They're not going to be able to. But if there could be baseball, tennis is another one. I think you could play in the fall.
I mean, as recently as 5-10 years ago, some boys tennis was in the fall, right? Or girls.
Girls, we were saying
so,
last week.
That's certainly a creative possibility there.
I mean, the way I see it, golf could go off. Cross country, if you had staggered start times for the runners, so that everybody wasn't in a pack. And it would be more, what would you call that, Willie? Almost like a time trial, as opposed to like a race where, you go off this time, somebody else goes another minute, and so on and so on. But it keeps coming back to the same thing. It all goes back to what the schools are going to do. They're not going to do anything athletically until there's a plan in place for the schools. I don't think we're going to know about that until August at the very earliest. So while we all are cognizant of what's going to happen athletically, I think the bigger focus for the state is how are kids going to go to school? Is it going to be in person? Is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be home only? What are they going to do with buses? What are they going to do with drop-offs and pickups and all these different things? That I think has to all get sorted out before athletics.
That's what I wanted to bring up, Phil. Every teacher I've talked to, and I've talked to a few in a couple of towns, and administrator has said, I don't know if I should say this off the record, but that the distant learning was a disaster. Not so much in college, but at the high school level and at the elementary school level, it was a disaster. And to me, it seems the hybrid model, I mean, I think you're either going to have to do it, you're going to have to put everybody in the same thing. You're going to have to go all out back to school, or you're going to have to stay home. But they don't really have a model to stay home, Phil and guys. They just don't have it at the public school level right now. It's just not there.
Oh, time's ticking. You're 6 weeks away from the start of school,
right?
Again, so without a plan in place, that makes things even more difficult.
Well, they have a plan. There's a plan there. We could go this separate, or at least they're working on it. So many kids in a room one day. You stagger the days and so on. The rest is online learning. But the point that the teachers were making is online learning is not there. It's just not there. The kids aren't used to it. The kids aren't ready for it. Most teachers don't have the training in it as well. And then you add the technology to it, and it's just not there.
Right.
I think I'm, sort of related. I think one thing that we're going to see in fairly short order is that you're not going to have your August tryouts. I think that the prevailing notion from the administrators is that they're very uncomfortable with having kids on the sports fields before they're in class, right? So in a normal setting, you go to football before school starts, before Labor Day. So I think at the very least, we're definitely looking at a delayed fall if there is a fall. I don't think anybody's comfortable with having soccer tryouts before school actually starts there, that Monday before Labor Day, or, different districts have different start days. But I think that in the near future, we're going to find out that they're going to delay any athletic activity until after the first day of school. I think there's just a real discomfort with having kids out there playing before school is actually happening.
Yeah, on that note, I think we're pretty much out of time. I think we're really we're going to know in 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks we're probably going to have to know. They're going to have to make a firm decision on all of this stuff, I think, within 2 weeks. So
I don't think I think they're going to play it just like the spring. I think it's going to be soft delay, soft delay, soft delay. I don't think there'll be anything firm about it.
Well, I meant for sure about the school year for the classroom.
Sure. Yeah.
And then athletically, if they want to try to hold out some hope on that piece, I think you're right, Matt. Yeah. Okay. Well, gentlemen, always good seeing you. I want you to stay cool this weekend. Put the sunscreen on. All right.
I'm gonna grab a coconut here from the tree.
Oh, and you did that with the hands. Yeah.
Ah, not bad.
You get the straw to just jam that straw right in there.
I like that.